Greg, great to see you.
Great to see you too. Good to see you again.
You too, buddy. So just for some background for everybody here, I met Greg at the Multisport Canada Olympic Distance Triathlon at Wasaga Beach last summer. Um, we were bike rack neighbors. It must have been the look of terror on my wife's face. It was her very first triathlon ever, which probably prompted you to start off a conversation and just tell her to have some fun with it. Um, if my memory serves me correctly, it was your first Olympic distance too.
Yeah, it was. It was my first Olympic. What's really funny is that I was incredibly nervous, and seeing her nervous and me like trying to give her advice calmed me right down. So I felt like it did more for me than it did for her.
So it was a beautiful day from what I can recall. The water was warm and clear.
Yeah.
But other than that, it was a great day of racing. But what really stuck in my mind, we were talking earlier about injuries and just staying on top of those things. I was nursing an ankle injury myself. So I was pretty much like last in for the day. But you were there waiting for us and cheering us on, and it was really just touching, really special moment. That's kind of why I asked you to come on, and just your positivity and your fun-loving spirit. I just wanted to have you share your story, and just your zeal for life is very infectious. So I just want you to inspire other people too.
Yeah, it's amazing when you get to those. I'm constantly at the bottom end of the start list when it comes to finishers. So it's always great when you still have people there to cheer you on at the end. So I think it's so important. And by that point you sort of feel alone on the race, and see someone else waiting for you and to cheer you on, I think it's important. I did a race earlier in that year where the same thing happened to me. Someone I met in line was waiting for me at the finish line and cheering me on. So it's a great experience for sure.
So I'm just curious, maybe you want to share a little bit about how you got involved, and first, you're basically where this triathlon interest was born.
Yeah. So my first knowledge of triathlon came from the Sydney 2000 Olympics, and that was the first Olympics that I sort of became aware of the Olympics in general, or not aware of it, but I really dove right into it. I tried to watch as much as possible. I always joke that I changed my internal clock to Sydney time so I could watch everything live, much to my mother's chagrin, as I'm watching Daniel Nestor win gold in tennis. And there I am. It's like 2 a.m. in Eastern Standard Time, and my mom's like, "Why are you up watching TV right now?" It's like, "Well, it's the Olympics. You got to watch the Olympics." So that was the first time that triathlon was in the Olympics. And it was, I think, on the first or second day. It was really early into the games, and Simon Whitfield had won gold. And I was watching it with my stepmother, who made just an offhand comment that triathlon is sort of the pinnacle of sport. You do everything in one shot, and these are great athletes, all that stuff. And I suspect that she doesn't even remember saying it, but it became one of those core memories. I was like, oh, I want to do that. I want to try that. I want to see if I can do that. And I've always been a big sports guy, but not always the most ambitious to do it myself. I played hockey and I wrestled and that kind of stuff growing up. But once I got into university, that kind of stuff falls by the wayside. So I didn't really do much. And then with COVID, I had the opportunity. I had a little more free time on my hands, like a lot of us did. And although you couldn't go and play team sports, which I was used to, I was like, you know what, maybe I should take a shot at this. And I was talking to a good friend of mine. We had him and I had a conversation pre-COVID, just about, he's a big athletic guy. His wife's an Olympian kind of guy. And he's like, you can do all these stuff that you talk about doing. You don't need to say you can't just because you're a little bit bigger or that kind of stuff. Like, you have that ability. You just need to do it. So with COVID, I had the time. Luckily or unluckily at the time, I was laid off, like a lot of us were. So I found myself with some extra time on my hands and just went out and started walking and walk 2 kilometers. And at the time that was a huge number for me. And then from there it would be like, okay, cool. I'm walking 2-3 kilometers. Maybe if I can run, between lampposts and then continue walking, see what that is. And that sort of built from there. So it went from being walking 2 kilometers to walking 1.9 kilometers and then run for 10 meters kind of stuff. And built up from there, got a stationary bike. I remember being very excited to bike 10 kilometers on the stationary bike. I thought that was a huge number. And I had heard about the try distance. And I was like, okay, I'll start with that. I'll do a try. So I used to mimic them all the time. I'd bike for the 11 kilometers of the try, and then go outside and walk for 2 kilometers, and just built up into the growth from there. And I've always been a very competent swimmer. It's by far my favorite part of the sport. I think everyone comes into this sport going, oh yeah, I have that one thing I like, and the rest of them I have to learn. So maybe didn't spend as much time swimming as I should have in that time, but it was hard to get a pool. In COVID, there wasn't much swimming available. So built it up from there. My first triathlon I did in Ottawa, all the triathlons were shut down. Somersault was not running that year, so I did it myself. I literally had my family set up in a parking lot of the local pool and was like, hey, I need you to sit here and watch my stuff while I go, and I'm going to go swim, and I'm going to come back, and I'm going to bike, and then I'm going to come back, and then I'm going to run, and I just need you guys to sit here and make sure no one steals my bike. So that was the first try I did. And that was it was 2 years ago. And then I went on to do a spree in Montreal and did the sprint distance. And the sprint distance is, I think that race specifically was 700 meters for a swim, and 20 kilometer for the bike ride, 5 kilometer run, give or take a couple kilometers here or there. And it was great. That course is spectacular. It's the bike course is on the F1 track in Montreal. So the fastest, flattest race course you'll ever be on. I don't think I've ever biked so fast in my life. And it was great. And the swim and the run, the swim was in the Olympic basin, which, as I said, big Olympic guy. So to be able to swim in an Olympic venue was really cool too. So, and then it's just grown from there. And we'll be going to my 3rd year of doing triathlon, and really excited to see what it brings on.
Awesome. So I know you said
what's your triathlon background?
Sorry?
What's your triathlon background?
Oh boy. I did worked my way up to half iron many years ago. Got that, and then like life kind of has a way of sneaking in and taking over.
Yeah.
And then after I had my operation, I think it was, I was just sitting there and just kind of trying to heal up and everything. And I was kind of reinvigorated. I was like, you know what, I can do this. Starting to get stronger and stronger. I started going back to the gym, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do this. So it was less than a year after I had my operation. I did my first half Ironman since. I was supposed to be doing a half Ironman this month, but just medical reasons had to kind of back out of that. But I'm definitely signed up for another half Ironman next summer.
Yeah,
the Muskoka one.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Where was the one that you signed up? This was down in the States?
Yep, it was going to be the La Quinta Indian Wells one.
Okay.
That's the one I actually did last December as well.
Okay.
It didn't play out like it was supposed to this year, but hey, you got to take care of your health first.
Well, that's a big thing. I think sometimes people feel obliged, like you pay all that money, right? And it's like you want to just get to the start line, and that's for millions of reasons. There's reasons you don't make it. I had a buddy last year who went to do his full Ironman down in Sacramento, and he gets there, and the day of the race, it gets rained out and the whole race is canceled. So he flew all the way down there just to have it not happen. And but triathlon's all about being uncomfortable. So it's not going to go perfect. It's not going to go to plan. Your races get canceled, injuries happen, medical reasons happen, life happens, and it's just a matter of keeping the feet moving and keep on going.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So do you have any are you training with any teams, or do you have any partners or teammates?
So last year I trained with Team Triumph here in Ottawa. They have a really great program. Their beginners program. So the first year I didn't train it. I just did it myself. I literally made up my own schedule of when I should train and stuff. And last year I was like, okay, I need to invest a little bit into this, because with the goals that I have, I felt I needed to do a little bit more learning of what training looks like. So I ended up signing with Team Triumph. That said they had a great, I think it was a 14-week Olympic beginners program, and met some really great athletes from there, really good friends from there. So this year I'm going on it alone, but learned a ton from them. I think one of the problems I had is I made this assumption that, like, to run a triathlon, you should have run that triathlon like a couple times before yourself with your training. And I realized that you go out, and if you go out and run a couple marathons before you run your marathon, you're just going to burn your body out. Or at least that's how my body works. My wife is going through she's working to work for a marathon herself. And she had the same thought. She's like, oh, I got to run like a 30-kilometer race to get ready for a 21-kilometer half marathon. It's like, no, you work your way up. So learning the different things, learning about zone 2 training has been really important to understand how to get yourself stronger and ready for actual race day.
Of course, yeah. It's I remember having that same thought process myself. So anyways, just moving on here. You mentioned Somersault races.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, Somersault is the race. They've been going on for about 25, 30 years here in Ottawa. Adam, he recently bought the race, the series, to take over the last couple of years. They didn't run during COVID, as I had mentioned, and we really didn't have any races here in Ottawa at all. Even like the Ottawa Marathon was shut down for, I want to say, 2 years. So he bought on that race, and his big philosophy, and the thing that really attracted me to him compared to some other race series, is that it's really designed to learn the sport. So he'll get up at the start of every race. He'll tell you all the reasons you can get disqualified for a race. Not putting your helmet on at the right time, not dismounting at the right time, dragging, all that stuff. But then he says, you're not going to get disqualified from this race. But so for other races, this is an issue. So it's all about getting people doing the sport, not about people winning the sport. And in over this off season, they made a decision to do a little bit more of an ambassadorship with some of the people who would run the races this year. So people who have cool stories, they have ambassadors who are high-level athletes who have done countless Ironmans, who are great, doing great things, qualifying for Boston, that kind of stuff, and marathons. And then they have other athletes who are beginners, such as me, who are just enthusiastic about the sport and want to get as many people involved. So My job with them is to get people to learn more about the series, get people to come out and try the sport, try multi-sport. Doesn't have to be just triathlons. They do duathlons, they do aqua bikes. Really an all-encompassing race. They have races of many different sizes. They do a half iron here in Ottawa, and they do tries in swimming pools. So it's really they have options for them. They even just do running races too. The next race they have is up in February. They're doing the Embrace Winter, which is a marathon in the middle of February in Ottawa, which is all sorts of different challenges. I volunteered with it last year. I've always been big in volunteering in sport. I've been lucky to do a lot of things through volunteering, so I'll sign up to volunteer every so often. This is before I even ran a race with Somersault. I went and volunteered with them, and it was great. It was a lapped race, and it was great. Every lap, you'd see the condensation freezing on people's faces. So they'd start the race looking like very young, but by the end, everyone, and I mean everyone, had white beards from all the sweat condensating over the 42-kilometer run. So it was really cool to see. So yeah, that's the nuts and bolts of them. Adam and his team do a fantastic job organizing the races. They're very, I said, they're very accessible, and that's the big thing with them. It's not about winning. It's about being accessible. So there's no time limits. If you're going out and doing a half iron, you're not worried about, well, am I going to make cutoff for the bike ride? Am I going to get, do all this work and get kicked off at the last minute kind of stuff? So really, really well done, and I'm happy to be part of it. Not long after I'd signed up as an ambassador, I got a message from a woman who had seen me run the Canadian, which is the big Somersault race to end the year. She had mentioned that she'd always wanted to do an Ironman, but assumed it was only for very, very, very small, skinny, athletic people, or not Ironman, a triathlon. And she's like, I went down to the race to start getting a gauge of what type of people were doing this race. And she's like, I saw a bunch of people who looked a lot like me and who were out there having a ton of fun, and it made me realize that I could do it too. So it was a really cool email to get. It's kind of cool to see the influence you have on people that you don't even know sometimes. So yeah, it's I'm excited to see how this ambassadorship works and to get more people out enjoying the sport.
Speaking of reaching out to people and just trying to share your journey, you've started documenting some of your training and stuff.
Yeah, so I started up an Instagram page, Big Try Guy RFM, and I sort of use that as a when you have your personal channels, you don't want to bombard your colleagues with stuff about all your workout stuff. So I made the second page, sort of save them from that and create an alter ego almost. So I went out and my goal was by the end of the year, I wanted to do a run durability challenge and essentially run at 3 kilometers every day. Unfortunately, speaking of injuries, I had at the end of the season, I had developed some tendonitis in my foot that I kind of ignored. Don't do that because it's a really easy fix if you just stay off your foot for a couple weeks. So that's what I'm in right now. So that's sort of sidelining the goal, but in it, I learned so much about like constant motion and also learning to take a break. I think when we get into these modes where you have these goals and it's like, oh, if I take a break, it's going to hurt my abilities or my gains or whatever you want to, whatever buzzword you want to throw in there. And it's important to give your body some time to just relax, heal up, and come back stronger. So right now I've sort of taken the holiday season to calm it down, and then I'll get back and start getting back out there and doing some more running and biking and skiing. I'm a huge downhill skier, so it's killing me right now. This is like the perfect time to get out on the slopes. I keep on getting emails from all the mountains in my area being like, hey, come ski. I'm like, I can't. I want to, but I can't. Yeah.
So what's next? And I know right now it's just focus on healing up, but any plans for next summer, next season?
The big thing for me is I really want to do a half iron. So I had set a goal that before I turned 40, I want to do a full Ironman. So I think I'm 35 right now. It keeps on changing on me. So I have some time, but my goal this summer is to do a half iron. So I haven't decided which race I want to do. I originally was going to go back down to Montreal and do the Esprit because it's my favorite race. But my friend then announced his wedding was that weekend, so I haven't figured out if I can do both of them. So I think I'm sort of going between doing the race here in Ottawa with Somersault, which, you know, it's exciting, it's good, but it's also the home race, and there's something kind of cool about for the big races going out and traveling something new. So it's this, or I might do Barrelman, but it'll depend on a few factors. I have some time to decide, but end of the year, I'm hoping to have a half. Sit there and say I've done a half iron, and then races along the way. My first race will probably be in May with a Somersault early bird. Probably gonna do just a try. And the reason for that is, one, it's kind of fun at the beginning of the season to do something a little bit shorter. You're not trying to break a goal in the first race, in my opinion, or at least for me, that's what works for me. So do a shorter race, get used to it, get back used to doing transition. I did the early bird last year, and my transition was horrible. I was all over the place. Nothing was where it was supposed to be because I was out of practice, and I hadn't practiced enough. Always practice transition. So I'm hoping to guilt my sister into coming and doing the race with me.
Very cool.
Yeah, she's you know, very much like me, grew up very active, and then life got in the way, kind of stuff. So kind of guilting her into coming out and doing that with me. And she's not a runner, so I've told her, I was like, we will do the race together. We'll walk the 2 kilometers. Not a problem. Walking's so underrated anyways. Yeah, so that's really big goal. And then hopefully the year after, going out and doing a full iron. So I've been sort of researching which race I want to do, what destination I want to go to, because I am not foolish enough to know that, or I am not enough of a fool to realize I don't want to do the mountains in Muskoka. And I don't want to do Tremblant for the same reason. I like flat.
Jesus, lost my train of thought there. That's right. Tell me about the early bird. There's no way you're swimming outdoors in May.
No, that's the one inside a pool. So
Okay.
they do it in the Carlton pool. It's a great setup. But yeah, it would be cool to be doing it in actual water. So and one thing I like about the pool is that there's a lot of athletes I've met along the way who have mentioned to me that they're very intimidated by outdoor swimming. They don't want to swim in open water. As I mentioned, I'm a big swimmer, so it's never really been something I've ever thought about. I'm like, yeah, just get in the water. Like, you go, you swim, whatever. And I'm realizing how that's a very personal opinion, and not everyone shares that side of mentality. So there was the person that I met in line at the early bird had mentioned to me that their big goal is to do an outdoor swim. So early bird's a really great way to get your feet wet in a very safe environment. All triathlon is a safe environment, but feeling in an indoor pool, I think, feels a little bit more safe.
Absolutely.
And heated. Yeah. So it'll be good. And then see what other races. Ottawa is really lucky with a lot of races here between Somersault and Gatineau. There's a couple of races on the Gatineau side. So whatever your fancy or whatever your schedule, there's absolutely a race to choose from.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Greg, thank you. I honestly can't thank you enough for sharing some of your time this morning.
My pleasure.
And again, just it was. I will never forget when I was coming in very, very late on that Wasaga Olympic event because of my ankle injury. You were there just cheering me on, and huge smile on your face. Just it definitely makes for not only a great memory, but just, you know, we've stayed in touch since that moment.
So social media is amazing for that. It's amazing the people you can find on it because of that, and other races. I will say, if you had come into that race maybe a minute earlier, you would have seen me doubled over in the finish line too. So I had recovered just enough to start cheering again by that point. That race was. I have a cool story actually from that race. As you see, I have my banana shirt, and I always wear my banana shirt. I don't know why, but I love the brightness of it. And on the run course, it was 2 laps, and on the run course there was a house at the end, and there were a bunch of kids who were playing music, and they had like water guns and stuff.
I remember that house. Before, yes, yep.
Yeah. So I used to work for the Pan Am Games in Toronto, and a former colleague of mine was actually the run director of that race. I didn't really know it. So when he saw me come around the first time, he had made friends with that house. So when I came around the second time, they started up the song Banana Phone as soon as I did it. And as soon as I turned the corner, and like they were singing, they were cheering. And as I said, you're at the end of the race. No one is left on the course with you at that point. It was like, I think it was me, you guys, and one other person left on the course by that time. And having all the kids cheering and playing Banana Phone, and I have never felt the surge of energy as I did after that. And I remember I was in pain. I had huge blisters on the back of my ankles. So I was in so much pain by that point. But I ran the rest of it because the enthusiasm of those people on the course carried me for the last 2.5 kilometers of that race. And it was back to the whole thing about you never know the influence you have. Spreading positivity and being positive always helps other people. And it's never a bad thing to be positive and to be fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Greg, thank you again.
My pleasure. And I hope our race paths cross again. I'm sure they will. Southern Ontario and Ottawa are not that far from each other.
Well, I'm going to be doing the Wasaga Olympic again.
Awesome.
I'm going to be doing the Muskoka half.
Okay.
And ideally going to be doing the Barrelman half as well. And I might even check out the schedules if I can fit it in. I'm curious about the Montreal one that you were just talking about with the F1 course, because that sounds great.
So good. It's so good. Like it's the most professional run race because I believe it's a national championship or national qualifier on top of like an every person race. So it just feels very professional. It feels grandiose. You feel special doing it. And I tell everyone, I'm like, if you're gonna pick a race, it's the most fun that you'll have at a race. Plus, how often do you get a bike on an F1 track?
Yeah.
And that F1 track's like it's gorgeous. You're just off the island. The views are great. It's great for spectators too. Because so I'm gonna try to do this on screen. You have the swimming course here, and the swimming course has the running course around it. And then you have the bike course on this side, and then there's grandstands in the middle. So literally your family can go from watching you do the swim, go over the grandstands to the other side, watch you bike, go over the grandstands again, and then watch you run. It's such a well laid out course for that.
That's really cool. That's never really the case.
No,
at all.
No, because it can't. Like this sport is so it's huge, right? So it needs to take up a huge footprint. And if there's very few physical abilities to watch an entire race. Like I always joke whenever my wife comes out and watches my race, it's like you watch transition and bye for an hour and a half and see you, in 2 hours. And then especially because I'm not a fast runner, it's like, yeah, see you in 5 hours when I'm done my run. Go get lunch and then come back. You'll be fine. So it's a course where it's great for people to come watch you. And they have music going the whole, it's all around positive. I have no complaints about it, except for it's a lap. Laps always throw me off because I'm afraid I miscount my laps.
Well, you know what? I might have to put that one on my schedule. Make it work.
Keep me updated if you do.
Absolutely.
Sounds good. It's been great chatting with you.
You too. Thank you so much.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
You too. Bye-bye.